Hello, everybody. It's me here, and today we are going to be talking about the red planet, Mars. There's so much that we've discovered about this planet in our solar system, and I want to share 10 facts about it with you. So let's get into it. Number 1, Mars is named after the Roman god of war. This is because the planet is red, which is associated with blood and courage. However, there was also another explanation for why it was named this. It's because the Romans associated Mars with bloodshed, conflict, and Ares, who was the Greek god of war. They thought that Mars was the father of Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of Rome. Some people even believe that Mars was the father of all Romans. But what they didn't know at the time was that the Romans weren't exactly the most peaceful civilization out there. They had their fair share of bloodshed and violence, just like any other society, but they were probably one of the most advanced civilizations during their time. No, 2. Mars is the 4th planet from the Sun. The first being Mercury, then Venus, Earth, and then Mars. Out of all the planets in our solar system, it's the closest to Earth. If you were to travel from Earth to Mars, it would take approximately 26 minutes to get there. But due to both planets orbiting the Sun, the distance between them can vary quite a lot. The shortest distance between them was recorded on February 2003, when they were only 54.6 million kilometers away from each other. At its farthest, the gap between Earth and Mars can reach 400 million kilometers. During those times, scientists have to wait for the planets to align again in order to send spacecraft between them. No, 3. Mars has 2 moons. These moons are called Phobos and Deimos. Phobos is the larger of the 2 moons, and it gets its name from the god of war's brother, who personified fear. The smaller moon is called Deimos, which means dread or terror in Greek. The names of these moons are very appropriate since they orbit such a violent planet. In Greek mythology, Phobos and Deimos were the sons of Ares and Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance. According to the myth, when the giants attacked the gods, Ares was enraged and he went to battle. He left his 2 young sons behind, and they were taken care of by their mother. When the fighting was over and Ares returned home, he found that his sons had been killed by the giant Alcyoneus. Consumed with rage, he slew Alcyoneus and made an altar where the body lay buried. Phobos and Deimos were actually the only moons in the solar system that were named by scientists. Normally, the International Astronomical Union would name newly discovered moons after the major gods and goddesses of the culture that discovered the moon. For example, Jupiter's moon Europa is named after the wife of Zeus. In this case, though, scientists decided to break tradition and name the moons after the gods of war instead. No, 4. Mars has seasons just like the Earth. Because Mars is tilted on its axis at an angle of 25 degrees, it experiences seasons just like us. However, since Mars is farther away from the Sun than the Earth, a Martian year is almost twice as long as ours. A Martian day is very similar to ours, though. It's only 37 minutes longer than an Earth day. One Martian day is equal to 24 hours and 39 minutes. Since Mars doesn't have a large atmosphere to scatter sunlight, the planet is very cold. The average surface temperature is minus 63 degrees Celsius. There are times, however, when the temperature will rise above freezing. If you were to live on Mars, you would experience extreme weather conditions such as dust storms that can last for months and cover the entire planet. The atmosphere of Mars is mostly composed of carbon dioxide, which would cause humans to freeze and die within minutes. Another thing to keep in mind is that Mars does not have a global magnetic field to protect it from the solar wind. This means that if you were to live on Mars, you would receive a lethal dose of radiation from the sun. With all these dangers in mind, it seems highly unlikely that humans will ever be able to colonize Mars, but who knows? Maybe in the future we will find a way to live there comfortably. Number 5, Mars is smaller than the Earth. It's actually the 7th largest planet in our solar system and is the 2nd smallest terrestrial planet, the largest being Mercury. Mars is approximately 222 million kilometers away from the Sun. The volume of Mars is only 11% of the Earth's volume. And if the Earth were the size of a soccer ball, Mars would be the size of a baseball. The gravity of Mars is about 38% of Earth's gravity. On the plus side, this means that if you were to go to Mars, you would be able to jump very high. A human would weigh about 38% less on Mars than on Earth. Since the gravity on Mars is so weak, it wouldn't take much effort to lift heavy objects off the ground. Scientists think that Mars used to be a lot more active geologically than it is now. Millions of years ago, it had a strong magnetic field that protected it from the solar wind. However, the planet lost its protective force field, which caused the atmosphere to leak into space. Today, Mars has a thin atmosphere with little protection against the solar wind. No, 6. Mars is red in color. The reason why Mars is red is because of the iron oxide or rust on its surface. The presence of iron on the planet's surface gives it the characteristic red color. Iron is a common element found on Earth and many other planets. It has the most abundant metal in the Earth's core and makes up a significant portion of the planet's mass. However, on Mars, the iron is exposed to the atmosphere and reacts with oxygen, which causes it to rust. This is why you see rust on old cars and other iron objects. The rust is iron oxide. In addition to the rust, the iron also gives the planet a dark color, which contrasts sharply with the bright blue sky. This is because the iron absorbs most colors of visible light except red and orange. These colors are then reflected back into space, which is why we see Mars as red. Number 7. Olympus Mons is the tallest mountain on Mars and is located near the planet's equator. The mountain is a shield volcano that is 3 times the height of Mount Everest. In fact, it's the tallest known mountain in the solar system. Olympus Mons rises 22 kilometers above the surface of Mars and covers an area of 54,000 square kilometers. That's about the size of Belgium. The base of the mountain is roughly 600 kilometers wide. It's not exactly clear how Olympus Mons formed, but scientists think that it may have been created by a meteorite impact. Evidence for this theory includes the fact that the mountain is perfectly round and symmetrical, just like a meteor crater. The summit of the mountain is also very flat, which would have been created by the impact. No. 8. Valles Marineris is the largest canyon in the solar system. This massive canyon stretches for over 4,000 kilometers across the surface of Mars and reaches depths of up to 7 kilometers. That's about as deep as the Grand Canyon is wide. The canyon is so vast that it can be seen from orbit around the planet. We don't know exactly how Valles Marineris formed, but it's thought to have been created by a combination of tectonic activity and erosion. The tectonic activity may have caused the crust of Mars to crack, and then the erosion caused the cracks to widen. No. 9. Mars has polar ice caps. Both the north and south pole of Mars are covered in ice. The ice caps are made of water ice and carbon dioxide ice. The water ice is only a few meters thick, but the carbon dioxide ice can reach a thickness of up to 4 meters. Every winter, carbon dioxide freezes on the surface of Mars and forms a layer of frost. As the temperatures rise in the spring, the carbon dioxide evaporates and leaves behind a thin layer of dust. Over time, this process creates the dark streaks that are seen on the surface of the ice caps. Scientists think that the ice caps may contain large amounts of water that could be used by future human settlements on Mars. Number 10. Evidence of past life. Mars may have once been habitable. Billions of years ago, the planet had a thicker atmosphere and a stronger magnetic field. This would have protected the planet from the solar wind and allowed liquid water to exist on the surface. Scientists have found evidence of past life on Mars, such as fossils of bacteria and algae. We don't know for sure if the planet was ever inhabited, but we are still looking for signs of life. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching.